You're on mute, by the way.
I know. Hello, yes, welcome back to the third tier podcast. Now, today we are discussing everything from Friday's results to Monday's results, and we've got some very special guests on this show tonight. And today we are joined by Tom and, of course, Matt, who are also part of the third tier podcast. Tom, we'll come to you, mate. How are you?
Buzzing naturally after that result. Really decent week of football and really good to be back. The week's gone quick, but it also seems like a while since we've done the last podcast. So happy to be back and then see you both again.
Brilliant to see you, Matt. A mixed week for you. How are you, pal?
I'm all right. I've got a bottle of wine, so I'll cope. But yeah, it was a decent win against Wigan last week. But Blackpool were a better team today. There's no getting away from that. We'll talk about it in more depth. But yeah, Tangerines fully deserve their points, and it makes that playoff push all the bit harder now. We're still not out of it completely, but it certainly makes the margin for error a lot less.
I agree. And Matt, we'll come back to you. You played earlier on this week, didn't you, against Wigan Athletic at home? How did you did? You won 1-0, good goal, and another 3 points on the board on Wednesday.
Yeah, good 3 points. Probably a bit in and out in terms of performance. We weren't at it as well as we have been in recent weeks up until Wednesday night. But credit Wigan, they're fighting for their lives and trying to battle for every point. And I said after the game, I was on the EFL fan show with Gabe Sutton, who runs the football, one of the football websites, and he's very knowledgeable. And I said to the Wigan fan that was on there that if they play like they did against us, I can see them getting out of trouble. But games are running out for everyone, whether you're trying to get in the top six or stay out the bottom four. But we weren't quite at our best, but we took a couple of risks second half and left ourselves vulnerable at the back to try and chase that winner. And luckily for us, it was a game where we took our big chance and Wigan didn't. And then today, Blackpool took all their chances and we didn't, and it was comfortable for them. But no, it was a decent win against a hard-working Wigan. Unfortunately, we couldn't follow up this afternoon.
Absolutely, and I can say it's always disappointing when you can't get 3 points. Tom, will come to you before we do get into the other batch of results. You had a very good Easter Friday. You won by 2-0. Jerry Yates scored again, and Ellis Sims scored a well-taken goal. What was your thoughts on that result?
At the start of the first 44 minutes, game sort of started and Swindon made it difficult for us by sitting back and we didn't create too many chances. So I was wondering if it was going to be one of those games, but we kept possession of the ball really well. We pressed reasonably well and pressed strongly when we needed to. Change of shape back to 4-4-2 after 4-2-3-1 for a few weeks. Made the fans a bit sceptical, but as soon as we got that goal with Ellis Sims sort of volley or semi-volley into the corner of the goal, put us comfortable at half time, and then on the hour mark, Yates goes around the keeper to settle the nerves. We don't concede many goals. As soon as that second went in against Swindon, who are struggling at the moment, I was quite comfortable that we'd see it out, and that we did.
Absolutely, and they were kind of wins that you weren't getting earlier on this season. Now, lads, we're going to go into the other batch of Friday's results, and as you can see on the screen now, any results that kind of stand out for you there, Matt? Obviously, Doncaster lost on the TV to Charlton. Charlton, getting a win under Nigel Atkins. Sunderland got a win coming from behind. That's the first win they've actually got from behind this season. Blackpool won as well. Portsmouth continued their 2-1 trend. Any results out of there you thought, wow, what a result that was?
Yeah, there was a couple. I think the Portsmouth one, not because of, they've had to play a team that's in and around them or anything like that, but we knew that the Cowleys were going to have to come in and hit the ground running if they wanted to challenge the top six and get into those playoffs, and they've done that superbly. Like you said, I think they won their first 2 or 3 2-1. They've won again today, not by, playing a team off the park, but by getting over the line and finding a way. And they've certainly had a positive impact on that side. I think they've been playing without a recognised striker, because I know John Marquis is suspended. I know they've had injuries as well. I think Friday, they had no Hiwula, no Harness, but they still found players to score goals. And they've had another player score a goal today who you wouldn't sort of think of as a natural goal scorer. So, yeah, that one was for me. Northampton was a big win as they battled to stave off relegation. They needed to get something, I think, over the first set of fixtures over Easter because they had a really tough one today. So that was a big win for Northampton and still gives them a fighting chance.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Tom, going back to you just quickly, obviously Peterborough got a vital away win against Fleetwood in the last minute. Imagine my shock. Clark Harris scored a free kick. I thought he was poor up until that moment. And Plymouth also beating Wimbledon, who again lost them today, but we'll come back in a minute. Any standout results for you that kind of, obviously, because you're looking at the top results now, so you'll be kind of looking at the Peterboroughs while I'm looking at the Wimbledons?
Yeah, for me, the Peterborough game, was it a shock? No, because the quality they have, but you holding them out until the very last minute, and that's at the end of the day, that's the quality you get when you have a striker such as Harris, and he pulls it out at the last minute, especially at the free kick. Sort of, most people would go over the wall, but it's drilled at bottom corner, and he's kept Peterborough's promotion hopes well and truly alive after today as well. So that's that bit of quality he's got this season, over 20 goals. Plymouth scoring early doors. They're the top scorers within the first 15 minutes, and they got their goal. But overall, nothing really shocking. Just Peterborough can do themselves proud after winning a game that potentially they didn't deserve to, and keeping themselves alive.
Absolutely, and I always say it's a time for miracles, and there wasn't many shock results on Friday. I think if you predicted them, I think when I predicted them, I got 2 correct results and 2 correct scores and 7 correct results. The only one that came out was Fleetwood, which you can't make up, can you? Whereas I didn't do as well. Going on to Monday's fixtures after kind of an interesting Friday period, as you can see on the screen now, Matt. We'll come to you. Fleetwood scored late, the worst goals I think I've ever seen scored today at Plough Lane. And obviously, we will come to Blackpool in a moment. Hold on for that. But the result of the day, in my opinion, was Bristol Rovers. They've got the second most points from behind this year. That's 15, only behind Peterborough United, who are in an automatic sash title race. 15 points from behind. Another win today against Doncaster, who are still chasing the playoffs. What a win that was.
Yeah, it's massive for Joey Barton and massive for the members of the Gas Army, because it's been slim picking since Barton came in. And I think when he took the job, everyone, certainly us on here, said that we thought they'd have more of a manager bounce and they'd be all right. But it's not really worked out for one reason or another. And Barton's gone off and won in the press a couple of times. And you start to wonder, are the players going to play for him, or are they going to down tools like they did perhaps for Paul Tisdale? But I think today shows that they are still playing for the shirt, and they still definitely want to play for Joey Barton, and they've got a great chance now of getting themselves out of trouble. I've seen the Fleetwood winner. Probably the less said about that from a Wimbledon point of view, the better. That's not what you want to do. I felt for the keeper because he'd made 3 good saves before that, and then ruins it all. But I think you have to say that Blackpool's probably the result of the day as well, if you're looking at the top end, because Gills have been good, and that's not me being biased. The stats back that up, regardless of how we get these points and how we play to get these points. And that's been a big talking point across social media everywhere at the moment. We've been getting results, and we've been getting results against good football teams. But today we come up against the Blackpool side who were absolutely spot on, I think, from first whistle to last. We've gave them a helping hand with the first, unfortunately. But from there, the second goal's a great finish from Jerry Yates, and it's really good delivery from Luke Garbutt. I don't think it's a free kick, personally. I think it's really, really soft. I thought Darren Drysdale, again, had another inconsistent game. But we'll talk about that, in more depth. But for me, I think down the bottom, Bristol Rovers is definitely the result of the day. And up the top, I think it's got to be Blackpool. And I think now Blackpool fans, I don't want to, become a jinx, but I think there's a case for them potentially thinking they might be able to chase down the top 2.
I could not agree more. And going on to kind of my say, I believe that Bristol Rovers win is, I said today win or bust, and they got a win, and I predicted that right in my prediction video 2-1. And the way they got it, I thought, unbelievable. McCormack getting 2 goals, 2 shots on target, 2 goals, won a lot of his duels, which I think was key for them today. And they've given him a fighting chance of going on to the Blackpool. I think we
have to give credit to the goal line clearance right at the end. I'm not sure it might have been Williams or Leahy that got back on the line, and that's unreal, because that saved them 2 points, definitely, because that's brilliant defending, and that again shows for me that they're definitely playing for Barton, and they're definitely trying to get out of trouble, and they've certainly not down tools, because if they had, that player's not even trying to get back on the line. It's an unbelievable clearance.
Spot on, man. Could not agree more. And Blackpool got another absolute massive win. It's 13 unbeaten. They've won 5 away in a row, 5 clean sheets. They are now scoring goals. They don't concede many. They've got the best defence in 2021. You know, I think the fourth in 2021 in the form table, the last 28 games. I think they're second in that as well. I think horrible start, Tom. You have gone on leaps and bounds, and that is just kind of a statement going, never ever sack your manager too early, because results will come if you trust the process.
Trust the process, indeed. Yeah, it was me after 7 games, only getting 1 win, I believe it was, maybe even 2. So don't hold me to that. That seemed like 2 seasons ago now. The season's been so long. But you're right. You look at the side that played against Gillingham and lost 2-0 at the start of the season. They were streaks ahead in terms of how to manage a game, take their chances, and not make any mistakes at the back, despite the stats saying we had 62% possession, 12 shots versus their 6 or whatever. It was quite evident on the day that Gillingham were a much more better rounded League One side. We've made a lot of signings. We brought in Calderwood just before our first away win against Burton, and he's definitely shored us up with Critchley, and he's maybe given Critchley that little League One Nelson, the understanding of how to manage football games a bit better. But I have no doubt in my mind that Critchley has had a say working with Liverpool in the past with these players, and he's definitely putting on his style of football now. And I just can't believe how well we manage games. I say that tongue in cheek because we've conceded a lot of late goals, but he's learning. We conceded in the last minute against Wimbledon. We conceded the last minute against Plymouth. We conceded, you say, late on against Crewe, but there was 10 minutes added on. It's like the 76th minute or 86th minute, but technically the 76th with 10 minutes added on. But at the same time, we've beaten Plymouth twice, and we're beating Gillingham today, who are in good form, and we've beaten Hull. Took 4 points off Hull, actually, and we're playing really well. And I think it's, today was a statement of intent, because before the game I was desperately nervous, and you can ask Matt, quote, he can get his phone and show you, when I saw our starting lineup, and I also tweet saying trust Critchley, but I also said with our starting lineup I'm a bit worried that Oliver and Dempsey and Graham are going to do some damage to us, and they didn't do that today, and Critchley got it spot on, and I haven't seen a better half in football in years from Blackpool, and that's generally the first half football today was out of this world. And do I think we're good enough for automatics? Probably just out of our hands now, because the top 3 have that such a big point gap, and we haven't got too many games in hand over them. But if we don't get playoffs now, I'd be bitterly disappointed, because we've got the ability to do it.
Absolutely, Tom, and I could not agree more with you. Jerry Yates also came, scored 20 goals. That is the most for a Blackpool player since Andy Morrell. How good is he? Because every weekend, he ruins my weekend. I see his thumbs up everywhere. It's all we can do. And like I say, you're like a kid in a sweet shop today, Tom. How good is Jerry Yates, and how would you rank him up there with the top strikers in this division?
Up there with the strikers in this division. His technical ability is amazing. His flicks are incredible. His touch is sensational. But what impresses me most about Jerry Yates is his engine. You think Jeremy Dean's been out for a long time now. He's got 20 goals, and just if the viewers didn't know, he didn't score in his first 7. Yeah. So that shows you something. He's immensely clinical. He scores goals which you don't expect him to score. For example, the one against Northampton, he goes around the keeper with absolute ease, as we saw against Swindon and MK Dons. And he doesn't stop. He's played 90 minutes week in, week out. And apart from Plymouth last week when we drew, the week before last when we drew, he looked tired. But other than that, and Matt sort of will back that up, he just doesn't stop. He's a defender's worst nightmare. And I'm thankful to say, and I've seen some very good Blackpool strikers in the past, he's probably the best striker I've seen in a Blackpool shirt since I've been alive.
That is a big, big statement. But for me, I put him in my 3rd or 4th in my top 5 strikers. Another one I've put in is Bandine Oliver. Matt, again, this result today, but this just shows you how far Gillingham have come to be competing with Blackpool, who are fighting for playoffs, who are unbeaten. You've still got something to play for. You've gone from just over a point per game a few years ago to nearly 1.5 points a game. Does this show you what a job Steve Evans has done, that you're disappointed to lose out to Blackpool, who are the best team in League One right now?
100%, yeah. The fact that we're sitting here still talking about the playoffs with 6 games to go shows you everything that you need to know about the job that Steve Evans has done. Forget all the other stuff. He's made us a better football team, and that's all I ever wanted when he took the job. And everyone knows that I wasn't over keen on Steve Evans coming to the football club at the time of his appointment, but he's won me round. And there's a lot of people that hate him, and I was probably one of them people when he wasn't managing my football team. But he makes teams better and he makes them competitive. And today was disappointing, and unfortunately for Dane Oliver, probably had his quietest game in 2 months for us. But that's credit to Neil Critchley and setting up the team that he did, because Tom's mentioned that he texted me and said, "We're playing our worst centre back. You're going to have an easy afternoon." And I replied and I said, "I'm not buying into that at all." And then I stopped replying after that. I said, "I'm not getting involved or trying to get overexcited." But Neil Critchley comes from a very good football background that Neil's already mentioned. He plays the right way, if you like that type of football, and he's getting results. So in that sense, it's definitely the right way. If you're winning games, then you're playing the right way, regardless of how you do that. But they've got good players all over the pitch. And the thing for me with Blackpool is, at the moment, if they've got players out injured that had probably come into that team, yet they don't look any weaker. I thought the lad next door, next to Yates today, was very good. Sims, the lad on loan from Everton, he's a big lump for a kid of his age and physically very strong. And a couple of Gills fans said today, do we get a better result if Robbie Cundy plays? I don't think we do. I think the game's lost because the movement from the front two and the midfield players, especially in wide areas, is very good for the Tangerines, and they stretch us all over the park. And I don't think having someone in there who's necessarily better in the air than Connor Ogilvie or Tom O'Connor, who's playing at left back at the moment, would have made a huge deal of difference. I just think it's one of them games where you have to just hold your hands up and say Blackpool were better than us. They took their chances. They deserve their 3 points, and it's one of them. I don't get this blame culture all the time where fans always have to pick holes in stuff and find a scapegoat. Blackpool were better than us. We move on to Saturday and we go again.
Absolutely agree with that, man. What, in my opinion, very humbling defeat, and you love to see that. Tom, you keep going. Big win, big win, big win. You've done the double over Portsmouth, the double over Peterborough. You've beaten these good sides now. You're beating Gillingham again today. A different task, who, likes getting your faces, might pump the ball down long, but also like to get it on the floor. Statistics do show. Is this up there with the biggest win yet? Because at the moment, you are 5th. You're over Lincoln now. You're catching up on Portsmouth as well. You are 4th on points per game. How big today within the other wins as well that you've had?
Yeah, I said on the Gills in the Blood preview with Matt, and go and subscribe if you're not already, guys. Matt does some incredible work. That it's probably the game that I'm looking forward to least this season, based on the type of football that Gillingham play. And I'm going to back that up because I've watched them 5 or 6 times this season against Ipswich, Swindon, and a few other sides. The counter-attack against Ipswich for their second was one of the best counter-attacking goals this season. Swindon went 1-0 up, didn't bother them one bit, and they absolutely outplayed them, played the ball on the floor, and was effective with crossing as well. The reason I'm so worried today is because they've got the core, a spine of a team, which can hurt a lot of teams in this. And Hull saw that sort of the week before, when they drew, and they could have won, both sides could have won, but, they got a good result out of Hull as well. With the spine of the team they've got, with O'Keefe, Dempsey, Graham, Vadine, Oliver, Kindy, Cundy, I know he's out at the moment, but Ogilvie, I think it is, isn't it? Sorry. At the back, Tucker, etc. They've got players that can really hurt you. So the way we've started at home recently, last 6 before today, we drew 5 and only won 1 against Peterborough, which we were brilliant at, and we really stepped up. The games we didn't step up, we got really bad draws in teams lower in the league than us. So to start today as we did, and then concede, and then go on to score 2 goals in quick succession afterwards and control the game, just showed that we played the right sort of game in terms of football. We kept the ball on the deck, but we pressed really well. And we just showed that we shouldn't really fear anyone in this league. And I watched Sunderland and Peterborough today, which we'll come on to in 5 minutes or so. And I think, I don't know if Neil and Graham will agree with me when they come on, but it was one of those games where there were 2 really good sides. They kind of cancelled each other out, but they both played really good football in spells. And I just think if we get the ball on the deck and we press like we have, we could hurt both those sides like we've shown against Portsmouth and Hull this season already. So, why not aim for the stars? And I generally don't believe we'll get first or second. But if we can go into the playoffs with this sort of form, then I'm excited to what the playoffs potentially could bring.
What a statement that is from Tom. Well, anything that can bring, with football, I think it brings you that excitement. And this year, it's been hard, hasn't it, to be watching football. But at least started giving you something back. And you invested in the summer. You bought 17 players and 21 out. Also going back to some other League One results, because we have got some guests coming in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Just going back at it again. Look at them. Crew beat MK Dons today. Crew, again, now win 3 out of the last 5. And MK Dons won 4 out of 4. Matt, looking at that result, it was one of those hard to predict games where MK Dons, if they won it, could have maybe talked about maybe a little sniff at the playoffs. But Crew got that win. And Dave Artell, I think he's done a very good job this season. What do you think of that win for the Alex?
Yes, it's a really good win because, like you say, I think if you look at the comparative form, I think MK Dons were probably in slightly better form coming into the fixture. You'd fancy them at home. I know there's no crowds and that type of thing, but they were playing well, MK Dons. And you talk about Dave Artell, I think Russell Martin's done an extraordinary job at MK Dons as well. And I know there's the whole thing regarding the franchise and that type of thing, but if you strip all that back, Russell Martin's doing a really good job. They've got really good players. They play really nice football. I've had a couple of jokey tweets with Jonathan Harries, a Dons fan, who's just put a comment up and said that Crew deserve to win and fair play, because like you say, there's no point pretending that your team's better than it was. If you've been beaten by the better side, just be humble about it. But in Mika Mandron, who got both the goals, I know all about him from his time at Gills. He's a good player at this level. If you give him games and give him chances, he'll score goals, and I think he's around double figures again for the season. So they've always got a goal threat. It means that they can play 2 ways, because we know Crew generally like to pass through the thirds and keep it on the deck. And I accused them at the start of the season when we went up to their place and beat them 1-0 of not having a plan B. And if you stop them playing out from the back, then you stop them playing. And the same when they came to Priestfield, and we absolutely slapped them 4-1 because we stopped them playing out from the back, and they kept trying to do it, and we forced errors out of them. But with Mika in the side, they can go a little bit more direct. And yeah, it's a really good win for Crew, and they're going to finish comfortably in mid-table, which represents a very good season. I think back at the third tier for me for David Artell's side, and if they can recruit well in the summer, they'll be looking to push on and maybe get into the top 10 next season or a bit higher.
I agree with that, mate. I agree. And Tom, finally, before we do go on to our next section, Hull again got a great win against Northampton today. You're in that bracket where you could potentially face them in the playoff to come. Are they a side that you're faithful of right now, for promotion? But a great win for them as well, and they're carrying on the push for that top 6 or even winning the league.
I've said since the start of this show, so 5 or 6 weeks now, and I said previous, Hull won't be in the playoffs. They just won't be. They've got to play. Well, they've got to play Sunderland still, I believe, and I just don't think they'll lose. But they might have played a game or 2 more, but they've just been too consistent at chipping away with results. Whether they get the draw at the last minute, or as they showed against, I think it was Crew, scoring late on to win the game as well. And I just think it's their season just to continue to be consistent. They've been consistent for a very long time now. Yes, I would be. In fact, I'd probably want them in the playoffs. If we made the playoffs, I want Hull if they're not going up top 2, because they'll be wounded to not go up automatically. So quality throughout, decent strikers, decent defence, and I just don't see them hitting playoffs. But I would fancy them in the playoffs because they'll be wounded. So probably a better side to play.
Absolutely, and I like that mental thought. Matt, quickly, we'll come to you in a minute, Tom. Result of the weekend, obviously going from Friday, from Wednesday when you played, to Monday. Some big ones out there. What would you go for on the spot?
Let's have a quick look. I'm going to be boring and say the 2 that we've already mentioned. I think it's either Blackpool today against us or Bristol Rovers. I think, like you said, we looked at Good Friday's results and the game that we played on Wednesday, and there was none there that you thought, that's a massive shock. I think the biggest one you'd say was probably Northampton beating Shrewsbury, but that wasn't a massive upset in the sense of where the 2 teams are in the table. Everything else effectively went to form, because Charlton even winning at Doncaster are in no type of form. So for me, it's got to be the gas beating Doncaster Rovers. I know Rovers aren't playing well, but in the terms of the bigger picture for Joey Barton and their relegation battle, that's absolutely monster. and Blackpool in terms of momentum, because I said it about Gills, if we could go to Bloomfield Route today and beat them, it was going to give us real belief for the rest of the season and give us a real chance of getting into the top six. We still can. But it's going to be a long shot. But for Blackpool, it's a huge win. It's not just a 1-0 or a 2-1. It's a comfortable 4-1 against a good Gillingham side. So for me, it's Bristol Rovers or Blackpool.
Absolutely, I think I'd agree with them too. For me, I'm going for Bristol Rovers for being 1-0 down, winning 2-1 at home, keeping themselves in it. Tom, you're not allowed to say Blackpool, but because obviously 2 wins from 2, that's perfect. But other than Blackpool, what is your result of the weekend?
Going for the hat-trick. I wouldn't have chosen Blackpool anyway, despite it being a good result. And the way we played is the icing on the cake. But we've already said it. Bristol Rovers went 1-0 down. They're in absolutely atrocious form. They're losing against a side that hasn't won in 6 or winless in 6. And, they've just been useless, whether it's been dodgy refereeing decisions or Barton sort of blaming other things. But for McCormick to come step up and score 2 goals and bring some hope into their season, for me, that could be season defined for them. And as you said on the last one, they're running out of time, they're running out of games, and boy, did they step up today. And every credit to Bristol Rovers, and fingers crossed they can kick on from here.
Absolutely. And Tom, if you're okay to move on with the next section, we've got 2 big guests coming on now. As you well know, guys, the League One El Clasico today was on Sky Sports before. It was Peterborough and Sunderland. 2 teams are kind of neck and neck. Sunderland 43 points in League One in 2021. Peterborough 42 points. Peterborough got the best home form in the league. Sunderland on a great form. Start off with Graham from What the Fart podcast. Sunderland, you've been in great form. You travelled away. What was your thoughts going into today's game? Was it kind of a must-not-lose game instead of a must-win game?
I think there was a lot of build-up around it. I didn't feel that much pressure, to be honest. Like, the pressure was on Peterborough. I think Peterborough, if they lost that today, it's a bit of a different scenario for them. We go a point ahead of them, got a game in hand, and we've already got 2 games in hand on Hull. I said I'd be happy with a draw. I think if we did lose today, it would have been a kick in the balls, but I didn't feel that much pressure. Sunderland fans might disagree with me on that. I think a lot of fans did, but for me, going into the game, I was quite confident, and lack of pressure helped that. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't take all 3 points, but I said 1-1, which is my first prediction I've got right this year. So fair play to me. I got it right in the nose.
I love that. And going back to Neil. Neil, Peterborough have kind of got a reputation, haven't they? Of they always start well and they always kind of fade away, finish 7th in League One. You said before the show on News wasn't how it wasn't. It kind of must not lose game. Was you happy with the 1-1 against Sunderland after? I think they were 10 or 11 unbeaten before today. You don't lose any ground on them really. Good point, or are you disappointed that it wasn't 3 with 1-0 up through a good goal through Dembele?
Yeah, I think sort of along similar lines to what Graham said there, really. I think Posh probably carried a bit more pressure into the game. I agree with that from Graham. I think that it was a game that we couldn't afford to lose just because of the way the top of the league is setting up. But at the same time, on reflection now, 90 minutes past, like nothing's really changed other than a game's gone, because Hull have got to play Sunderland. There's going to be points dropped at some point. And ultimately, like both managers before this game were predictably trying to downplay this, saying nothing will be decided. It's not you know what I mean? Nothing will be decided today. And that sort of was how I sort of went into it. There's still 7 or 8 games left. And like, I know it doesn't work this way, but if you said, you'd lose today, Posh would lose today, but then you'd take 2 points a game from now till the end of the season, you would probably take that because that would be enough. So in terms of the sentiment of today not deciding anything, totally agree with that. And I think on the face of it, it might make for a slightly boring segment, but I guess Graham and I'm putting words in his mouth here, but I think a draw was probably fair as well. I think it was 2 pretty good teams going head to head, and the second half in particular, it was probably more enthralling than it was quality-wise, if you know what I mean. It was just more, you could tell it was a big game. I think the players were aware it was a big game. And there was that element of, look, worst case scenario here, a point for both sides. I don't think there's going to be too many arguments with that, really. And that's ultimately how it sort of played out, really.
Absolutely, I can agree with that. And Matt, we'll come to you. Obviously, I think we both played last week 1-1, and we said how big this game was. Do you think whoever would have won this game would have probably gone on to get promotion and maybe just win the league, really? But a point share, how can it go in now?
Yeah, I did say 1-1, so we'll talk about that first because I've got to have something to revel in this evening. But yeah, I mean, I've only looked at the highlights. Obviously, I don't have the benefit of the full game that Graham and Neil do. I've only watched what's on the Sky Sports app. But just from my point of view, looking at what they've shown, there's two big chances for Sami Samodic at 0-0, I think it is. I think there's one good save and then another chance that he drags wide. So I want to ask Neil, from that point of view, is it slightly disappointing? Because if he takes one of them, maybe you do go on and win the game. And from Graham's point of view, obviously, like, again, I can only say that I'm only looking at a 2-minute highlights clip on an app. It's not ideal, such as the quick turnaround from full time to us going live this evening. But I guess you've stayed in the game. It's an away game ticked off. It's a game against a rival ticked off, and you still have that game in hand. And Aidan McGeady again shows his absolute class at this level with an absolutely delicious free kick to level it up. Absolutely. So Neil, can we come to you first, Neil? Just on them Samodic's chances, you'd expect him to take one of them, surely, wouldn't you? The form he's in.
Yeah, and I guess that's the quality that we have. I mean, Tom's already alluded to it away at Fleetwood when we didn't really do much. We weren't great away at Fleetwood, but you've got that quality in the final third that Clark Harris steps up and scores. And also away at Blackpool, like we were awful in the first half at Blackpool, but Ward popped up on the stroke of half time and scored. And it's that sort of quality that in those sort of tight games, you rely on the Clark Harrises, the Smodic, the Dembélés to convert, half chances or okay chances. That's why you pay the money for them, right? For them to convert them. I think, Smodic had one when we were 1-0 as well, when the keeper made a good save. And there was just those little moments. But then at the same time, Sunderland sort of controlled a lot of the game, I felt, without necessarily creating clear-cut chances. But they were the team who were more dictating the general ebb and flow of the match. But then Posh had the better chances, I would probably say, within the game. One of which Dembélé took expertly. It was a really good goal. But generally, Sunderland were probably the better team overall, but Posh had the better chances, I'd say. And sure, like we can pinpoint the Smodic miss here and there. I think he'll be disappointed with a couple of them. I think that's fair. I think on McGeady's free kick, from a Posh perspective, just putting the blue tinted glasses on for a second, I don't know what Pim was doing. I think we've got a goalkeeper who can't jump. I was quite disappointed with that effort there, really. It was a great free kick. The execution of it and the technique was fantastic. I think from a Posh perspective, it was a little bit disappointing, but on the face of it, Sunderland probably deserved that overall. So a bit disappointed with some of the chances, but on the balance of the game, I can't sit here and say, the thing that's disappointing for Posh is that we were ahead and we conceded late. So that's the thing that makes you think, it's 2 points got away. But if you take a step back and just look at it on the balance of it, I can't say we hands down deserve to win the game. I think we deserve something from the game, but I think Sunderland did as well. So it was just the manner of how it came about. You know what I mean? If it was us scoring late and equalising, I'd have a totally different view of the game. But at the same point, it was still probably a fair result, really. I don't know if Graham agrees or disagrees with that, but I think on the balance, it was sort of what both teams perhaps would have been happy with pre-match, and that's sort of how it played out and how we ended up there.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Question to Graham again.
Yeah, I actually agree with Neil, which I'd love to add more to it and be a lot more biased, but sadly I can't. I kind of agree with a lot of stuff. I know what he means about us controlling the first half, especially the first half, should I say. It felt like we were never out of control of the game. It always felt like we were dictating what was due to happen. But then when Dembélé came on, it changed it a little bit. Dembele was really, really good in the third game of the season that we came up against Peterborough when we drew. I think we won 1-0, actually, tell a lie. But a lot of that first half was about Dembele, so I was a little worried when he came on. The only thing for me, probably, and I'll probably get stick for this because Sunderland fans always get it, but I was a little bit frustrated at the amount of fouls on Jordan Jones, to the point where I think it was 5 or 6 before I think it was Butler got booked. I felt like if Jordan Jones had a little bit more protection from the ref and not getting belted every couple of minutes, we might have had a little bit more of an outlet. But I can't complain and say, oh, we totally deserved to win, or we were lucky. I'm right down the middle. I think I would have been happy with 1-1. I think probably Peterborough would have been happy with 1-1. I never felt like we were out of control of the game. I never felt like Peterborough were like massively on top of us. I never felt like we were applying enough pressure as you'd like your team to apply. I just felt 1-1 was a really fair result. I would have been really aggrieved if we hadn't got something out of it, because I think first half we were probably better without creating, like Neil said, too much. And second half, probably Peterborough as well. I mean, some of the chances, 1 or 2 for Schmodix, but I didn't feel like there was anything that was massively clear-cut that like you class as a sitter from either side, really. It was probably for a neutral, not as good as the game as they wanted it to be. I think both sides were a little bit nervy. Sunderland settled a little bit faster and controlled it, but Peterborough's defence played really well. I think on Sky they give the centre half Beavers man of the match. I think Luke O'Nien was great again in whatever position he wants to play this week, which is centre half, I believe, at the moment. It was just 2 good teams that kind of probably deserved something out of the game each. And I think, if I'm honest with you, I think it'll be, because I was listening to the show just before I came on there, and I think you were kind of saying Hull is who you expect to go. I don't agree with that. I think it'll be Hull that drop out. I think it'll be us and Peterborough. I think we're by far the best 2 sides in the league. Nothing I've seen from Hull really makes me think they are title challengers or second. They've got the points in the bag, but I don't expect them to be in the top 2. I expect it to be us and Peterborough, if I'm completely honest.
Big statements. And talking to you, obviously, it was a big game at the top. You've had some games yourself. This game was one of the biggest in the league on this, like we said last week. What was your personal thoughts on the result, really? Because 1-1 doesn't really change the table, like Neil mentioned before, but it keeps it really, really interesting for the last 6 to 7, 8 games.
What a result for Hull. I kind of disagree with Graham. To some respects, like I've said all along, I think Hull will just bob along nicely and finish in those top 2. But if you look at the stats of the game, I think they both had 11 shots, 3 on target. Sunderland dominated the corners in terms of the ebb and flow of the game, and having those small attacks and winning those free kicks and those corners. I'd be probably a little bit disappointed for Sunderland not to kick on and get the winner. For me, it's still a better result for Sunderland. They've got a game in hand. It is against Blackpool, so it's going to be difficult. But I think Peterborough needed to win that. A statement of intent, going to Fleetwood in the last minute and then kicking on it and getting that victory at home would have shown probably that they are ready and willing. But for me, I don't know why, it just feels like a better result for Sunderland. I'm not 100% sure why, but I think they'll continue to chip away and get wins and finish sort of first or second. But we'll see. It's some vital games coming up, and the game against Hull is whoever wins that is going up, right? So they've got Hull and Blackpool to play. Blackpool to play twice as well. So if we continue the way we are, we're going to give them a good game as well. So for me, yeah, for me, Sunderland have got a real big job to do, and they're probably, I don't know how Graham feels. He said he's happy with it, but it's probably a little annoying that the fact they couldn't get that victory.
It would be nice to, sorry to interrupt there, Ben, but I think it would have been nice to jump into the top 2. One big thing I did want to ask Tom, obviously being a Blackpool fan, those 2 games against Blackpool are difficult based on current form. Like, you're looking at Blackpool and you're kind of doing us favours against the likes of Peterborough and stuff like that. So you kind of think, well, we're playing them twice and we've got Hull. Have we got the hardest run in? There's no right or wrong answer to this, but you watch a little bit of what Blackpool are doing and you see Elliot Embleton's played like quite a big role in that. Obviously can't play in both games. How much of a loss will that be for Blackpool in the games against us, that Elliot Embleton can't play, or am I kind of overstating what I've heard about his performances at Blackpool?
No, you're every right to assume it's going to affect us, because it definitely is. He's added something to Sully Kaikai, which Ben saw today. Embleton assisted, Kaikai assisted Embleton today, and those two, since they come in, he came on at half time against Burton the other week, where we should have won 2-1, but we had the worst first half and the best second half, and he came on. We went 4-2, 3-1, and he changed the way we played. His energy with Yates forces Kaikai to have the energy, and that runs on to Ward and Dougal in the midfield, and he's added an extra dimension to our side, and it's got me questioning. I said to a couple of Sunderland fans on Twitter why you'd let him go, and I think understandably he's not in your plans, but he's a hell of a player, and it's good that he signed a contract, don't get me wrong, but we're going to miss him because we've now got to find a player that can fit into his role. And I think we've got the quality to do that, don't get me wrong, but because we're consistently playing well with Embleton, he's going to be a big miss because he offers so much to us at the moment.
Quite an interesting subplot, I thought.
He's to be honest with you, the first thing I did when we beat Peterborough, actually, Embleton was phenomenal. I messaged a Sunderland fan who done some research, was like, it's probably not going to be allowed to play, is he? And they were like, definitely not. So I was a bit annoyed, but he's helped us get where we are, and we've got to find ways to win games, and it won't be the be all and end all, and I'm sure we can have the same sort of game plan, and hopefully give you a good game.
And just finally, Graham and Neil, we'll come to you, Graham, because you're just outside that top three right now. You have a couple of games in hand. You're in very good form. You're looking good. New owner. The fans are on side. Are you going up? And where are you finishing? If I had to put you on the spot right now.
We're winning the league. Of course we're going up. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually supremely confident. There's a thing with Sunderland, and it's like, I can't quite describe it because we've had all of this rubbish for so long. The double relegation, the David Moyes, I don't even like saying his name, Simon Grayson, Phil Parkinson era didn't work out. There's so much stuff, like you feel like the playoff final felt like we were a chance to get back, or get beat in the last seconds off Charlton. And naturally, you sometimes feel like it's not going to work out for Sunderland. Since probably the Doncaster game, it's just had a feeling that was very similar to when we won the league with Roy Keane. We just went on this run with Roy Keane in the Championship and went from like 12th to winning the league, and I think we won 17 or 18 of the last 20 odd games, lost 1 or 2, and it feels like that. Like I kind of feel like when Peterborough scored today, I lost that feeling a little bit. I kind of felt like it was Coventry last year, obviously before the world ended with COVID and whatnot. But I'm just really confident. When I look at the team and look at the players we've got, I think on form, and that's a really important thing to say, on form, I don't think there's many sides, if any side, that can match us. Like our bench, a lot of players on our bench would get into a lot of teams in that top 6. Elliot Embleton maybe being an example of how important he is to Blackpool and how much he's like giving them an extra dimension, as Tom said. But he sometimes doesn't even get on our bench. That might be down to age. It might be due down to fitness a little bit. But I don't think he had a chance of getting in the first team because we've got better players than him at the moment. So I think we've waited for a while for these players to hit form. They've hit form. I think it's going to take a drastic loss of form, which I don't see happening in the last 8 games for us not to win the league. And I might be wrong, and I'm obviously on a recorded podcast now saying that, which is great. But if you put me on the spot, yeah, I'm going to be confident with this one. I'm going to say I think we're going to win the league because I don't really rate Hull. I rate Peterborough, and we've got past that test, and I think they'll take second.
I'd agree with most of that. I think Lee Johnson, no team got more points than Sunderland since Lee Johnson. I think he averaged from about 1.4, 1.5 points a game before he came into like 2.1 points per game, which is a huge difference. Now, Neil, coming on to you, Peterborough, we talk about unluck. Last year, they looked like they were hitting form, and they still somehow managed to be outside of the on points per game. You brought some very good players in. You've replaced Ivan Toney. You've got Clark Harris scoring goals. Are you confident that this is the final year that the jinx is over, the Posh can get into the Championship?
I don't I don't carry the same confidence Graham does about Sunderland as I do for Posh, but that's not a reflection of our chances. It probably just says more about Graham's confidence around Sunderland. Funnily enough, I have actually backed Sunderland to win the title. I backed them to win it. I backed them to win it at the start of last month. So I think Sunderland might, but Posh it's still in Posh's hands, right? Because of the way the fixtures. I know that Sunderland have got a game in hand on us, and we've got one in Hull, but because of the way the fixtures play with Hull playing Sunderland, it's still in Posh's hands. Of the 7 games we've got left, 4 of them at home. So if you win them, that's 12. That's 85 points, and then you've got 3 away games. 1 win out of those 3, and you're pushing 88 points. I think if we win our 3 home games, if we win our 4 home games, I think we're going to be. I'm not saying it's enough to win the title, not at all. I sort of agree with Graham. I think Sunderland might win it, but if we can win our 4 home games, then we've got as good a chance as any to be in that top 2. So there's nothing in our fixture list remaining that is necessary. We've got to go away to Charlton. We've got to play Gillingham at home. We've got to play Donny twice, but they've sort of fallen off a cliff a bit. And we've got Lincoln, who are also slipping and sliding. So that fixture list didn't perhaps, it looks more inviting now than it did a month ago. I'm not saying it's easy, but it looks more inviting. I think the 4 home games are key. If you win them and get to 85 points, then you have a couple of free swings with your away games, which are Swindon and Charlton and Donny. So I'm not confident, but it's as good a chance as we'll have for many a year, really, to do it. And this is what we've got. This is what we planned for, right? This is the whole point of the season. If someone would have said in September when the season started, with 7 games to go, you'll be second and 3 points off the top, you'd have taken. I'd have snapped their hands off. You know what I mean? So with everything that we've done, with replacing Tony, with recruiting the way we have, has been to get us to this point now. And there's nothing after today. There's nothing on paper, at least, in the fixture list that is necessarily anything to be scared of. And so we've got as good a chance as any of Hull and Sunderland to go and do this. And it's the natural fan in me that makes me pessimistic. But everything's there for us to go and do it if we can. So I guess that's me sitting on the fence a little bit. But I think if we do it, it'll be second. We won't win it. But if we do it, I think we'll be second. But there's just a lot. There's still a lot of football to be played, right? So there's going to be teams are going to drop points, teams are going to pick up points. So confidently calling this now. I know Graham's on a recorded podcast saying they'll win the title. No one knows. There's going to be drop points, still to come. But if Posh can take 4 out of 4 from our home games, 85 points. I mean, what we thinking? 88 to 90 should get us an automatic, you would hope, potentially. So yeah, winning the home games and 1 win out of 3 away games is probably going to be enough, potentially. And I think that is doable if you just break it down to the quite boring mathematics of it. If you look at it like that, 88 to 90, if you got 88 to 90 points and didn't go up, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you, really? So and I think that is totally doable for Posh.
Shrewsbury got 8 to 9 a few years ago. Didn't go up. I think that's record for most, but I think you'll be okay this year. Tom and Matt, I'm just going to quickly put you on the spot before we let these 2 gentlemen go. Who are going up as your top 2? We also remember we've got Hull going up next, so be careful what you're saying. I think, Tom, I know your top 2. We'll come to you first. What is your top 2? If I put you on the spot right now.
Man of my word, Sunderland and Hull.
Why?
Because I just said Hull have been consistent all season and continue to will be. Sunderland got too much quality to not do it. And Peterborough have that little inkling of choking at the last minute. It'll be interesting to see who does it, but that was my prediction at the start, and I'm not going to change it now.
Big statement. And Matt, me and you are not kind of a man of our word. We keep changing every week, don't we, on the show? Every time someone asks us our top 6, I think 5 or 6 change. Who are your top 2 right now?
Yeah, I've changed it since the beginning of the season, but then I had Fleetwood in the top 2 at the start of the season. But for me, over the last few weeks, Peterborough and Sunderland top 2 for me, and I'm not sure in what order.
Right. Thank you
Can we make a
Graham, and thank
statement?
you to Neil for that. Really appreciate it, lads. Best of luck for the rest of the season. It's going to be interesting to see who does that out and who finishes second. And no hard feeling, lads, but good luck for the rest of the season.
Cheers, Gray. Cheers, Neil.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
all. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
Next up, I think we have top place versus a relegation downside, or the fighting out just outside the points per game at the moment. It's going to be an interesting one. We've got Brandon, who's a Northampton fan, and Will, who's a Hull fan. It's going to be interesting to see who goes down. Brandon, we're going to start with you. Again, a disappointing result today. But Piggy, you are picking up a couple. You got 3 points on Friday. You hopefully you can avoid the drop. It's a hard place to go to.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? It's been really interesting listening to the last couple of games in Peterborough and Sunderland and Hull, because all the drama at the top end of the table, we've not really been paying attention to it. There's so much drama at the bottom now. There's kind of like a 16 mini league, and it honestly flips every week. I think it was only 3-4 weeks ago we were bottom of the table, and then now I think we're 19th. So I've said from the start of the season, 20th is the absolute goal, and at the moment we're above that. But there's a lot of games in hand, and we've got by far the toughest run in. So yeah, it's honestly anyone's game at the moment. I have no idea how anyone's predicting it, but yeah, not the best result today, but some results around us went pretty favourably. So it's not as bad as it could have been.
I agree with that, and I think my team Fleetwood did you a favour today by getting an 88 Wimbledon. So
I think the Wimbledon keeper done you a favour, Brandon. It weren't Fleetwood; it was the Wimbledon keeper that done you a massive favour.
Yeah, there's a few late ones that we were saying before as well. Burton and Swindon, like a lot of people have been saying at Burton, that Jimmy Floyd came in and did what he couldn't do for Cobbers and turned him round a little bit, and then they started to dip off again. And everyone, are they going to get sucked in and it's going to become a kind of 17 race for the drop? But I wanted them to win today and keep Swindon below us, because I think it's more about keeping 5 teams worse than us, below us, rather than trying to, catch anyone above us. I think Burton are just going to have enough now. They've only got to win 1 or 2 more games. So they did us a favour as well, keeping Swindon right down there.
And going back to Fleetwood, you've got to take what you can take. When you're a Fleetwood fan in the season we've had, we'll take anything we have, but there's an absolute gift. Absolute gift. I mean, how we deserve to win that game, I'll never know. If we had won it, I would probably be slagging Mason off now, but right now, I would expect Guardiola, isn't he? Will come to you, a Hull fan. Again, you're not out of this top 2 race. You're proving that. You won again today. Your home form is quite decent of late. Good. Do you think you can still get into those top 2 places?
I think it's so hard to predict personally. With us having played more games than Peterborough and Sunderland, even though obviously points on the board are always better than games in hand, they're in such good form. It's hard to say exactly who might make it there. And I think the game we have against Sunderland will be the important match of the whole thing. I think if we win that, we'll probably go up. If they win it, they'll probably go up over us. I think Peterborough will probably go up. It's between us and Sunderland on the other front.
Absolutely. And Matt, do you have any questions for obviously Brandon and Will? Because obviously, the 2 sides that don't really, because obviously you won 1 with Hull the other week and you played quite well, didn't you?
I thought we did. I'm not sure the whole fan base did, but it comes back to the question of what's the right way, doesn't it? But yeah, obviously I always ask this question about ex-players. So what's your thoughts, mate, on Tom Eaves? I know a lot of Hull fans have said it's not worked out up there for him, unfortunately, for one reason or another. But as an outsider looking in, has it been tough for him? I know he's had a couple of pretty serious injuries that have kept him out for a couple of months at a time. So is it just a case of that he's not played enough consistently and got a run of games and struggled to get that rhythm? Because obviously at Gills he played 2 full seasons and scored 40 goals in about 90 appearances. I was just curious as to why it's not worked out for Tom, and obviously if you don't want him, you can send him back our way.
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think last season in the Championship we played the way we played when we had people like Jared Bowen. We didn't really play towards the main man. So last season, when he had chances, there were few and far between. But this season, it has been, I think, of consistency. He regularly, Josh McGinnis is our main striker, and he usually gets this call up over him. But when he has played, he's been okay. But there have been times where he's been very much a passenger. He scored a couple of goals. Obviously, he scored against yourselves.
Yeah.
I think that was destined anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But I think he definitely does need to up his game though, because McGinnis has been much more improved than himself. But I think when he does play a consistent run of games, he does do all right. But the problem is he just doesn't get that run.
Can you see him? I don't know what his contract situation. Can you see it being a case though, if you get promoted again, that perhaps that McCann look to offload him to be able to bring someone in who's more proven in the Championship? Because no offence to Tom, and I'm a huge fan of him because he was brilliant for us, but he's approaching 30 now, I think. So it's probably a little bit late now to try and become a Championship player per se. So do you think it's a case of if you get promoted that he goes and you look to bring in someone more proven in the second tier?
It's possible, but our owners are very frugal with who they buy and stuff like that, so it's hard to say. I could see him possibly being loaned out, maybe if we went back up. Maybe sold. It obviously all depends on how we do bringing players in. But I think if we did bring, I think we would bring. I do think if we went up, we would bring in another striker, and I think he would be the casualty if we did.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, strikers at the end of the day are judged on goals, and from a whole perspective, I'm assuming he's just not scored quite enough, has he? Unfortunately.
No, I think he's on 5 this season, which is not amazing.
Yeah, I think a striker's job is obviously to put the ball in it, but also for other things as well. And sorry, Matt, were you going to say something then? Sorry. Right. So, Brandon, come back to you again. You got, like you said, you got a tough run in. Where do you see, obviously, your points coming from? Because you probably need maybe another 9, maybe 10. Where do you see those coming from? And do you believe you'll get them? Because you've changed manager as well. Brady's gone in. You've done okay since coming in. You've had a few good results, haven't you? Against Portsmouth, where you might not have expected to get 3 points. I think you got against Charlton, didn't you? Which I don't think you were very happy about. Where do you see those points coming from going forward?
I mean, to be honest, so the previous manager, Keith Kirkwood, I don't know who would be aware of him, but I don't think he's many EFL fans' favourites. Like, the standard of football under him was pretty one-dimensional. And obviously, Vidane Oliver, who was the main battering ram for us when we went up last season, has obviously gone on to Gillingham, and they've used him in a similar way. And I don't think he got the players in that he wanted to play that way, and he got caught kind of in the middle, and we couldn't even play like Route 1. And we were going away to big teams and not getting points, but we were still beating the teams in and around us, and that's kind of where we got all of so far. And then obviously he's left. John Brady's come in, and again, I don't know who he was. He lives around local to the area still. We'd been coaching the under-18s and the academies, and a lot of our youth products that come through and stuff like that. And he's turned it round. He's very different to Cole in the way that we've gone away to teams or at home to big teams and taken points, or even 4-1 against Portsmouth, and even the games where we haven't got points, we were close. It was like 1-0, 0-0, whatever. But then the teams in and around us are where we're coming unstuck. We've lost to all the other teams around us in the last couple of weeks. Swindon, Burton, Wigan, and Bristol Rovers now is the on paper easiest game on Saturday. It's like you couldn't bill it as more of a 6-pointer, and I think if they hadn't got their result today, it would have been they would have needed to win that to even have any hopes of staying in. But as it is, it's still massive. Knowing Cobblers, we all said when we beat Shrews on Friday, that we're the kind of team that will probably go and get something out of Hull and then lose to Bristol Rovers. So I'm hoping it's the other way around now, that we've lost to Hull, so we get something out of Bristol Rovers. They're the games I'm more nervous about, because it's not about just getting 3 points yourself. It's about stopping them getting 3 points. So on paper, that's the easiest one, because after that, we've got to go away to Peterborough. We've got to go away to Sunderland on the last day of the season. We've just played away to Hull. It's by far the hardest running. So we've got our neck above the line at the moment. We just can't find the back of the net. We can't even, threaten to deceive in the opposite box. So, I just want 3 points against Bristol just to give us a bit of breathing room, and then maybe we can nick something out the other games. But it's got to start on Saturday with Bristol.
Huge game, isn't it? Huge game. And Tom, you asked the question, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, I was just looking at your running. You've not only got to play Bristol Rovers. Obviously, you've got Gillingham to play, Sunderland to play, Blackpool to play as well. So I can't. Saturday for me after Bristol Rovers, I can't get over how big that game is, to be honest with you. And looking at your running, I said last week on the pod that it's not that you probably haven't got that little bit of quality to stay up, but I just don't think you're going to beat those sides come the end of the season when they're playing for a lot more, technically speaking, in terms of promotion. When it comes to players like Hoskin and Watson and Morris in midfield, I said on a Q&A we did the other day that probably Watson's your most pivotal player in this run-in. Do you think he's good enough to see you stay up, or do you think that he'll be sort of a shining light in a dimmering season?
I don't know. I think if you're pinning your hopes on survival on Ryan Watson, then you probably deserve to go. I mean, really, he's done so well since Brady's come in. I think he got his 7th goal on Friday, and they've all been like proper, nice goals and good finishes. But he's on 7 goals. I think the next 2 closest goal scorers in the league are on 4, and that's Hoskin and Danny Rose. And I say this, whenever I do the What Load of Cobbers podcast, or we like guests with other people's shows and whatever. But I remember like when we had Sunderland in December and we drew 0-0, and there were Sunderland fans on Twitter tweeting at me telling me that Charlie White was overrated and he was crap and we could have him and stuff like that. He's like top goal scorer, 2nd top goal scorer in the league. And no offense to you guys, but you were talking about Tom Eaves. He's only got 5 goals. We would kill to have someone like Tom Eaves. I would love to have someone leading the line or in that final third that you can focus things around. And Watson's done really well, but it's because he's had to. He's not really that kind of player. And there's times on that little run he's had where he's been playing at top next to Danny Rose and Ryan Evanson in like a 4-4-2. So, we just the thing that's going to, whether we stay up or not, it will be how many moments of quality we find in the final third. And the games that we've won 1-0 or scraped something have been like really good finishes or long shots or a bit of luck or something like that. But like today, we couldn't find. I think our pass accuracy in the final third was like 29% or something horrendous. Like we can't even get crosses and set pieces and corners in. So it's going to be how many moments of individual quality can we find between now and the end of the season, and that's the only way we're going to beat, especially the teams ahead of us in the league. And I don't know if Watson, he's already come up with 7 of them. I don't know how many more he can do. So yeah, I mean, with that running, it doesn't matter that we're ahead of everyone else at the moment. I think a lot of people have got us, rightly so, down for the drop. But that's kind of taking a bit of pressure off, because I'm like, we can go at those games and it's a free hit and anything is a bonus, but we have to get through on Saturday against Bristol. I can't. You're right. It's just so massive. We have to get the 3 points.
Absolutely, and obviously you both played each other today. Will, you the home side, huge win. You're putting on that pressure. You've got players scoring goals, making the cake on a fortress. How big was that win today again against a team fighting for their lives?
I think it was a very important result, considering obviously Peterborough and Sunderland playing at the same time, and obviously the result being their coming could actually decide our season at the end of the ticket day. I thought it was a very dominant. It was probably the best we've played at home all season, to be honest. We've been very so-so at home for a lot of the season, and only in the last month or so we've started actually picking up and started becoming a bit more of a solid side. I thought Northampton went great shakes, but I thought they were solid for a long time until we did score. I thought they looked a decent side until that point, but I thought 3-0 kind of flattered City a little bit. We had some gilt-edged chances that we didn't put away, and I think it was a comfortable performance. It was a positive performance, and it was something that we needed going into the fixtures ahead. Like, got a tough, tricky game against Plymouth coming up, and then obviously in a couple of weeks' time we've got that Sunderland fixture.
Huge game. And Brandon, coming to you, mate. Again, a disappointing result, like we've mentioned. It was always going to be difficult today. You said you're going to struggle maybe, and it's a free hit basically. What was your thoughts on the performance today? Did you feel like you could have got anything, or do you think it was just one of those days where the better team won?
Yeah, I think that obviously the better team won. There's no denying that. I can't. The annoying thing is, like I said, Brady's kind of come in and we switched to 4 at the back instead of Cole's 3 at the back or 5 at the back, and gave teams more of a go. And even though we weren't scoring, we held on to the ball a lot better and we looked a lot more solid defensively, mostly because we weren't just sat back in our own box letting people come at us all the time, because it doesn't matter whether you're Northampton or Man City. Like, if you let people come at you 90 times a game, you know that something's going to get through. And we went back to that today. We played 5 at the back for the first time under Brady, and we couldn't even get out our own half. I can remember a couple of boxes, or I think the last 20 minutes when we changed it around and brought some subs on, there was maybe a bit more urgency. And I really wanted it to stay at 2-0. Our goal difference is one of the best out of those relegation teams, and that third goal was just, like Will said, they had a lot of chances, and you can't really fault them for 3 goals because they could have had even more. But I was like, 2-0 would be, with the other results, I was like, that'll be all right. We could get through it, and then they just had to get that to like rub salt in the wound. But as a performance, it was just really flat. I would have rather we went for it, because we ended up losing 4-0. We might as well play 4 at the back and had a go. And if we'd have lost 3-0 in that, it's better than the way we did it today, because we just, even if we managed to frustrate them at times and for the first 30 minutes until their first goal, which if you haven't seen it, I'll go watch it. It's an absolute cracker. But we offered absolutely, we offered nothing going forward, absolutely nothing.
And I think that's a good way to leave it. So Brandon and Will, thank you for coming on, lad. They appreciate it. Brandon, best of luck. I hope you can stay with us. And Will, good luck with the promotion. Try to get you through the playoff or the top 2.
Cheers, lads.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
fellas. Thank you.
Cheers, Will. So next up, we have a couple of fans, and we have coming on, and the Crunch coming on, Ipswich and Rochdale. We'll come to the Cruncher first. What was your thoughts on obviously today's game? Obviously a boring draw, but a point gain.
I haven't really got a lot to say, because it was an abject performance again. Cook's come in, and he's working with someone else's tools, because obviously Paul Lambert was there. He's had 8 games so far, so we've got 2 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats. It hasn't set the world alight. We've had no new manager bounce, but today we've gone away to Rochdale. Look, no disrespect to them, but we haven't had a shot on target all game. Now we're going for the playoffs, apparently, and the last away game was Wigan. That was a 0-0 draw. I think we had 4 attempts on goal that game. So we've scored 41 goals all season in 38 games. And that is where the problem is. There's no creativity in our team. James Norwood, he's our leading scorer, 7. He's never fit. I think we've got 11 goals between our strikers all season. And look, we're outside the playoffs with 3 points. So we're still in with a shout. We've got 8 games to go. We've got some favourable fixtures, but at the minute we're not playing well enough. We're not scoring goals. We're not creating goals. So, look, that's the long short of it. If you don't score goals, you're not going to achieve anything, are you? Really? So, but we've had a few people there. They're having a bit of a pop at Cook already, and I think, look, just wait till the summer. I think we've got 16 players. We've got a massive squad. We've got 51 professionals at the club at the minute. We've got 6 loan players who hardly any of them are featuring. So we can have a massive turnover in the summer to come. So that is when you can judge the new manager. He's obviously came in and he said he wants promotion, which I think he's going to say anyway. He's not going to come in and say that the season's over. A lot of our fans are saying the season's gone. Look, 8 games to go, 24 points, 3 points outside the playoffs. We've still got a chance, but ultimately, I don't think we're good enough. And I think give Cook the summer. Look, it's going to be a massive summer. And I think it'll probably take 2 or 3 transfer windows to sort this mess out, because it's deep-rooted. It's come from Mick McCarthy. They all said, careful what you wish for when he left. And then we appointed Paul Hurst. That was a nightmare, 14 games. Paul Lambert came in. We went down with a whimper. Everyone was saying, they were all singing the last game of the season, 3 Little Birds, Bob Marley, every little thing's going to be all right. And it's not all right, because I think a lot of our fan base said, look, let's go down. regroup, season in League One, League One tour, come back up, and we haven't done it, and we're not going to do it again this season. And you look at teams like Sunderland, you get stuck in this league, and it's hard to get out. And the longer you stay in here, it's harder to get out. But ultimately, for me, it comes down to the owner, Marcus Evans. For our club to progress, he needs to move on. There's been takeover talks. He's still rumbling on in the backgrounds. And I just think if Marcus Evans remains, Paul Cook will just become another number on his list, because it's a graveyard for managers at our club at the minute.
Now, from a neutral point of view, Ipswich looking at your target, and early on in the season, you were losing to all the other teams that you would rival with, weren't you? School was going to be tough. And I think Ipswich have scored one of the least amount of goals in 2021. Fleetwood at the bottom with Wimbledon, but we're at the bottom now. And Rochdale are a side that have, struggled. They've conceded 38 goals this calendar year alone. We're scoring loads of goals. They scored like 4 against Charlton, 3 against Crewe when you were 3 down. Was that a good point today? Obviously, you've taken 5 points from Ipswich, Peterborough, and you would have taken that before, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. It's a difficult situation because we're now at the stage of the season where we need to take the 3 points rather than draws. But going into a game like against a team like Ipswich, especially after the reverse fixture, when I was really impressed with them earlier in the season, there was no way that I expected us to get the 3 points. So there was definitely positives to take from today. Defensively, we looked far more sound. Gabriel Osho had a fantastic game. Gavin Bazunu, the goalkeeper, was dropped. Jay Lynch didn't really have anything to do. As the cruncher said, no shots on target for Ipswich anyway, so it didn't really make too much of a difference. But I thought overall, defensively, we looked pretty sound. We just struggled to create chances, which it's been different times of the season. We seem to have had issues with one or the other. There have been spells where we've been excellent going forward and really struggled defensively, as the stats seem to show. But then there are obviously games like today where we seem to have tightened up, but we struggled to create chances. Against Northampton is another example recently when we drew 0-0 and just could not break them down, could not find that chance. And I think partly that is because Stephen Humphries is injured. He's our star man up top. Matt Lund scored even more goals than him. He's been our star player all season. So when you take out your 2 main attacking threats, you're obviously going to struggle to create chances, and that's been the case both today and against Portsmouth on Good Friday, I think. So there are definitely positives to take from today, and we're far from out of it yet. I don't think we've gone any further away from escaping the drop zone. I think it's still 4 points, so there's plenty still to play for, and the fixtures do seem to get a little bit easier after that run of games that you mentioned yourself there. So it's not over yet, but there's been so many inconsistencies all the way through the season that it would surprise me, if I'm being honest, if we managed to clamber our way out of there.
Final one from me before I bring the other lads in. You lost Callum Camps to Fleetwood in the summer, who started like a firework. He scored 8 goals in the first 8 games, only 1 or 2 since then. You also lost Ian Henderson, who actually found that he got released by Facebook. He's now scored actually a brace against Forest Green for Salford. 1 was an absolute beauty. You also lost Nottingham Davies, who was on loan. You lost Luke Matheson, who went to Wolves, but with 2 on loan. Do you think those 4, departures finally cost you? Because you've lost key players in the past, but do you think this year, those 4 going out, when you lose your attacking, Henderson scored 15, 20 goals a season, Cam's got you 10. Do you think that's been the difference this season, why you struggled a bit more than usual?
Yeah, I'd also add Robert Sanchez to that as well, who we had on loan last season from Brighton and is obviously now starting in the Premier League. So I think that's probably been the one that, for me, has been the biggest difference. The 2 loanees, Sanchez to Bazunu, that's quite a big drop-off for me. I know a lot of our fans seem to rate Bazunu, but I've just not seen that he's ready for League One football yet. I know he's been playing for Ireland and he's a very young kid, so he's got loads of potential, and eventually he'll no doubt go on and make a good career of himself. But for a team battling to stay in League One, I don't think he's quite at that standard. Whereas Sanchez, obviously, as we've seen in the Premier League this season, fantastic goalkeeper. And then Norrington Davies, we just haven't had a left back all season. We've had Jimmy Keoghane, who's meant to be an attacking midfielder, but spends the majority of his time for us at right back or left back. He's been at left back. We had Talaji Bowler on loan from Arsenal, who just simply was not good enough. And then Matt Doan, who again is probably better utilised as a forward. So I think those two have been the two that we've actually missed more than Camps and Henderson, which may surprise some people from the outside looking in, given the amount of goals that those two scored and how vital they were to the way that we pushed forward. But like I said, there have been times this season where we've been great going forward. Quadro Bar's come in and been really exciting at times, but again, very young, so you can't rely on him always. Matt Lunn stepped up to the plate, playing slightly further forward and has scored. I think he's scored more goals this season than Camps did in any season for us, which shows that we haven't really missed Camps that much. And then I think Henderson's goals would have been replaced by Humphreys if he'd been fit, because we've seen that he can score all kinds of goals all the way through the season when he's been fit. It's just that he's had so many niggly injuries and he's not been able to build that partnership with Beasley that looks so promising when he does play, because I think they've only played together 7 times and we've only lost one of those games. So I think that shows. I don't want to hide behind the injuries, because there are so many reasons why we're struggling down towards the bottom this season. It's not just the injuries, but I do think that one in particular has definitely hurt us, because I don't think we'd have missed Henderson that much if Humphreys would have been fit. I think he offers more. I think he's more of a complete forward than Henderson, who in his later years had become a little bit more of a poacher. So. But I would say that the two players that we really definitely have missed undoubtedly have been Sanchez and Norrington Davies, because they've definitely not been replaced for me.
Absolutely. And Tom, that team that you lost to, I think, was Ipswich, wasn't it? And, since then you've got an unbelievable run. That day, I remember a lot of Blackpool fans complaining we weren't good enough, Critchley cost us. Did you think that Ipswich would, go on that good run and get into the playoffs?
Being from Ipswich, I know how the fans feel and I know how deep-rooted the issues are. Like the Crunchers just said, the reason I was so annoyed that day is because Ipswich were in woeful form and they weren't playing very well and they weren't scoring many goals. And we made 6 changes or whatever it was. And, we were confident before the game and before the sort of lineups came out that we could continue and kick on ourselves like we did subsequently afterwards. But for me, they didn't score enough and they looked fragile at the back. And Hook's added a bit of defensive nous to them, but they just haven't got the quality in depth in the squad, despite having a massive one to go on and kick on and get the playoffs. They've got a reasonable run in if you look at it on paper, but no shots against Rochdale, they've only won 1 at home all season, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's just not good enough, is it? And at this stage of the season, you've got to at least have a couple of shots on target to win football matches, as obvious as that sounds. And that's why, for me, they're just not going to be consistent enough to get those playoffs. I may be proven wrong, but I just don't see it.
Absolutely. And you've also beat Rochdale recently. It was one of those kind of rearranged games that you meant to play on Boxing Day, I think it was, in a tight affair. But, you got another at Bloomfield Road. But what do you think when you played Rochdale?
We should have done a lot better at home. It was one of those games we started reasonably well, got a good goal through Kai in terms of pressure, finished the move off, but then we let them play and they should have made a lot more of the ball. And I think with Dean's just alluded to that, the fact that they have a lot of the ball but they can't create opportunities. Barr came on and he was brilliant, really sort of wanted to win and showed that attacking intent, and they need that in their side. But the injuries has really cost them. And when you've got a small squad and you lose your best players, it's not a recipe for success. And Rochdale have had that in this season. And again, I think a bit like Ipswich not making playoffs, I just don't see them being consistent enough to get themselves out of it. They may win the odd one, but for me, Rochdale are just, say, a little far gone, but 4 points away. Yes, they've got a game or 2 in hand, but they need to win those games. And if they fail to win sort of the next 3, then I don't see where they're going to win 2 or 3 or 4 more, if that makes sense. So for me, that's why they're going to go down.
Great answers. And coming to you now, I remember Jim went to Rochdale a few days before Christmas. You won 3 or 4-1, and Steve Evans promised them Christmas Day off if they won, and you were fantastic that day. Did you think then you thought Rochdale were going to struggle this season with how leaky their defence was?
Yes and no. I mean, that's 3-4 months ago, so I think it is difficult to write any side off that far away from the end of the season. But it's been alluded to already, hasn't it? I just think that I can't remember a team in a season having such weird runs of results. I'm going back to, if you go back to the middle of December, the game before we beat them, actually, they went to Wigan and won 5-0. They then conceded 4 to us. They then scored 3 against Crewe but failed to win. 4 at Charlton, failed to win. 3 against Wigan, failed to win. 2 against us at the Priestfield, failed to win. 3 at home to Oxford, failed to win. And then the games where they've kept clean sheets against sides in and around them or just above them, they've kept clean sheets against Plymouth, clean sheets against Northampton, very good clean sheet against Ipswich today. I know Ipswich are probably not where they want to be in terms of a club of that stature, so that's a very good clean sheet. But then in them games where they've kept clean sheets and stopped the opposition from scoring, then they've then failed to score themselves. So unfortunately, you just look at that run over the last 4 months, and it's everything that you don't want as a football club happening at each end. You're conceding too many and not scoring enough, or you're scoring loads and conceding too many in them games. And for me, that's the biggest reason why I can't see Rochdale getting out of trouble. And I know there's one Rochdale fan who's particularly vocal on social media who defends his club to the hilt, which is great, but it's borderline delusional. I just think in terms of the type of club that Rochdale are, they have a very small budget. I'm not disputing that. I think, unfortunately, with COVID hitting, it was just a season too far for Dale, and I think they will go down. And, I'd love to be proved wrong. I've got nothing against Rochdale at all. I think that when Keith Hill was there, they was punching well above their weight and finishing in the top half of this division and doing really well. But they've lost a lot of good players over the last couple of seasons, and with no money coming into the football club like other teams, it's probably hit them a lot harder than it has those that are at the top end that can afford to pay higher wages and that type of thing. And for me, sorry to say, I think Rochdale will stay in the bottom 4 and be playing League 2 football next season.
And now to see him just quickly. We'll come back to you just finally. Where do you think Ipswich will finish this season? You've still got to play, I think, 2 or 3 bottom 6. So there's a chance to pick up points. People say it's the easiest running, but it's not really the easiest running because you're playing teams that are going to come at you and get in your face. They need 3 points as desperately as you need them. If you had to predict now, where do you think you'll finish?
Yeah, we're not very good. Like today, they pressed us. If you get in our faces, press us, don't give us a lot of time on the ball, we struggle. So we got MK Dons. You've got to play Wimbledon twice, Charlton, Northampton, Fleetwood, Swindon, Shrewsbury. So yeah, it's a very favourable run-in, but we've shown nothing in, I'd say, like the 8 games under Cook and the 30 before under Lambert to suggest that we're going to be anywhere near the playoffs. We don't score enough goals. When I look at the table, our goal difference is +3, and then you've got Lincoln +15, Blackpool 17. Portsmouth 16, and I know we're 3 points outside the playoffs, but that's worth another point. And with how tight it is, it could come down to goal difference. So on that count, we're going to be stuffed. I think we're probably we're 8th at the minute. We're probably going to finish 8th or 9th. And on reflection, you finish where you deserve. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs. We had bigger ambitions at the start of the season, and I think some of our supporters, you have to sort of, just because we've got a big sort of look back under Bobby Robson, we were a big club up the top of the league. Football's changed massively since then, but reputation's not going to get you anywhere. Look at Sunderland, how many seasons they've been in this league, struggling to get out of it. Sheffield United, when they were in the league, like a few seasons back, I think it took them 6 to get out. So to think we're just going to rock up in this league, it's going to be easy. Teams are going to roll over, and we're just going to go back to the Championship. It's not going to happen. It won't happen this season. If we did sneak in the playoffs, personally, I think we'd play the 3rd place team. So it's probably going to be Sunderland or Peterborough, I think, because I think Hull will go up. So look, we wouldn't beat them anyway. I just think we just see what we can do in these next 8 games. If we do get in, look, you have to take it, but we're not anywhere near ready. If we went up to the Championship, we'd be bottom. We'd probably get less points than Wickham did. So. Yeah, I'd say we'll finish about 8th, and we haven't been good enough. And next season it has to be better. But it's like today, I wrote a few things down in no tempo, no heart, no quality. He played 3-5-2, he played 4-4-2, he used all 5 subs. There was no spark there. When you're going away to a team who've conceded 38 goals in, I think, 18 home games, and you don't have a shot, what is to suggest that in them last 8 games we're suddenly going to find a bit of form? We're probably going to have to win 5 games, possibly, if we get 74, 75 points. We haven't done that all season. We won 3 games, and then the manager Lambert got sacked, and that was probably the writing was on the wall with him anyway. And that was a lot was down to his assistant. We've had some people are saying in the chat there. We have had loads of injuries. That is another massive problem, and that needs to be looked at in the summer because, like James Norwood, 4 games he's completed all season. We're in April now, and he still isn't 100% fit. And he was our marquee signing from Tranmere. So if he was fit, I'm not his biggest fan. He could score some goals. I think he'd score goals, but I think we need better than him next season. I think Cook will probably bring in. I think Cook's one of the most important things he needs to do in the summer is his assistant, because obviously Liam Richardson's at Wigan still, and he's doing a really good job there. He's had everything sold, so there's rumours that he might come in the summer, and I think that's a real key sort of appointment to get that trusted number 2 alongside you, and then he's got to build a team, and he's not going to have a lot of money to spend if the owner's still here, but he's got teams out of this division before, and I've got every confidence that he can get us out of this division, because we can all say we should be in the Championship, and look, we should, but we don't deserve to be at the minute, so we just have to take this season on the chin, rebuild in the summer, and next season come back. Hopefully we'll be back at games, because I think we've all probably had enough of sitting in your kitchens, your offices, whatever, watching iFollow, because it does my head in now. And you want to go back. That's another thing. I think a lot of them players at the minute at our club, they're getting an easy ride because there is pressure. There's obviously pressure to perform, but there's no one in the stadium. So if you make a mistake or you have a poor performance, they just walk off the pitch like today, get on the bus back home and to pick up their money and back to training probably Wednesday, and it's all too comfortable. But a lot of them players there today, they won't be at the football club next season. There's a lot of players out of contract, and you think you really should be running through brick walls for the new manager. You're not doing it. You're probably not going to get. I'm not being arrogant, but you probably a lot of them players are not going to play for as big a club as Ipswich again, and that's their own fault because he's given them plenty of rope, but they're hanging themselves, and you can only give people so many chances. And people could say, why don't you bring the kids in, try some of the loan players? The trouble with us, we've got so many players, but they're all at the same standard. We've got no outstanding players. If we had to name a player of the season, you would struggle to find anyone. And sooner this season's over, the better, and then we can move on, and then hopefully next season it'll be better.
And Dean, coming up to you, you've had a kind of a different kind of season. Do you think, you said, you're not down and out yet, but you're lucky. Do you think you can stay up very, very briefly?
No, I'm not particularly confident, to be honest. I think kind of similar to the country there's a lot of issues kind of off the field that I probably don't have time to go into now, but I think that kind of feeds into the overall kind of downward spiral that the club seems to be in at the moment. No home win in 6 months now, 18 games without a home win. And as you talk about like fans not being in the ground, I'm glad I don't want to go back anytime soon because it's been bad enough watching it on iFollow. The last thing I need to be is there watching it live. So, no, I've got no confidence, frankly, that we'll be able to pull a run of good results and performances together because I just don't think we quite have the quality in the squad, and I'm not sure the manager's up to it either. So, nice positive note to end on there. But I don't think I'll be on the 3rd tier podcast next season. Let's put it that way.
And that's a good way to exit the country. Dean, thank you very much. I love that the monologue from you, the country, and Dean, thank you for your views. Thanks, lads, and best of luck for the season, I guess.
Cheers, fellas. Thank you.
Cheers.
Perfect. So this is the time of the day where we look at the table. I'm sure Tom has been waiting like a Cheshire cat to look at his side inside the playoffs and above 6th, Tom. As you can see on the comments now, it'll just be above you. Tom, if you can tell us through that top 6, Blackpool on good form, Portsmouth have won 4 in a row, Sunderland unbeaten in 10, Peterborough on a good run, Hull also on a good run, and then Lincoln, Charlton, Ipswich and Gillingham, Doncaster. Possibly Oxford or Accrington can creep into 6th.
Yeah, it's starting to form a bit now, though, isn't it? We've got that gap from from Blackpool at 63 to sort of 50, 58, 59. So there is a gap forming now, and I think the next few games will start to shape the playoffs a lot more. If Gills pick up a couple of wins, then they push themselves back in it, and despite them running out of games, there's still sort of 18, 19 points to play for, and it only takes a small mini run for a team just below the playoffs, and then, for example, Lincoln, small squad, struggling a little bit at the moment to fall out. So yeah, it's difficult to still call, but I think in the next couple of games we'll see who make the playoffs. And I was going to mention earlier with Peterborough and Sunderland on the stream, there's probably just as much of a shout for Portsmouth to get top two than there is Blackpool. They're above us, and they're on good momentum at the moment. I don't know what you two think about that.
We'll go to you on that one.
Yeah, they're giving themselves a chance. It's the Cowleys are 100% at the moment, aren't they? So they're the team that's in the best form out of everybody. I know Blackpool picked up an excellent win today and saw off Swindon Good Friday. But yeah, is it 4 from 4 now for the Cowleys? I think is it 3-2-1 wins and then a 1-0 today. So they're getting themselves over the line without necessarily being absolutely brilliant for 90 minutes. I know a couple of Portsmouth fans have said on Twitter that, there's still periods in games where they look a little bit naive or a little bit off the pace, but what they're doing is they're finding a way, and that's the most important thing at this stage of the season. It doesn't matter how you come about these points, it's just about getting them. And yeah, they've got a game in hand over Peterborough in second, so if they win that, they get to 6 points. I don't know. I just think there's more momentum with Blackpool. Blackpool win that game in hand, they go to 66. It's more in Blackpool's hands, I think, by playing Sunderland twice. And then the Sunderland Hull game as well is massive. I don't think Portsmouth can directly affect it as much themselves. Whereas if Blackpool can, say, pick up 4 or 6 points against Sunderland, and then Sunderland dropped points or drew with Hull, suddenly it condenses everything again, I think, and that's the reason I'm backing Blackpool, if anyone, to gate crash that top two. Aside from the 3 that are up there, it would be them. But like Tom said, the top 6 is starting to take shape now. I think it's probably Lincoln will be the only ones that could drop out now. Blackpool look like they're giving themselves a buffer, and they've still got that game in hand. So even if you just look at them getting up to 38 games, if they win that, they get to 66 points, they go 4th. That's then suddenly a 7-point gap to 7th. That'd be one hell of a collapse for a side that would be 14 games unbeaten if they don't lose their next fixture. Lincoln, COVID problems, injury problems, George Grant out for the rest of the season, Liam Bridcut not fully fit, Tom Hopper not fully fit. For me, that's probably the last place that's up for grabs now, which is why it's making it harder for everybody else outside. Charlton, Ipswich have only played 1 more than Lincoln, so you think they've got a chance. But for the likes of Gills, I just think it's going to be a step too far, having played 40 games already. But all we can do from a Gills perspective is beat Shrewsbury next week and then see what happens and then worry about it game by game. But we've still got to go to Peterborough and we've still got to go to Oxford. I think the playoffs come from 1st to 8th now, dare I say it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like I say, I think Tom mentioned those games in hand for Blackpool were important. Blackpool do not have to win those games in hand now, which makes them so less pressurable, and Blackpool probably will benefit from that. I think Tim put before, and I absolutely agree with him on this comment, Sunderland will not take 6 points off Blackpool. I believe Blackpool could get possibly 4 points out of that. The way they're on form, 2 informed teams, Blackpool are looking really, really good, aren't they? And you look at Portsmouth, 4 wins on about 2 ones and a 1-0. And the sides that they've played against, Rochdale, they drew against early on in the season. They drew against Wigan early on in the season. They were losing to Northampton, the bottom clubs. You can see who they're beating and the winning that they've got, but the beating team that they were dropping points under a former manager, weren't they? So I believe Portsmouth and Blackpool will be in the playoff shake-up. The top 3, we've discussed, and it could be anyone's. 6th, I've said, and I think it'd be Lincoln, but they are hobbling in. Maybe this little break will do them good, but I can't see
Doncaster Saturday.
It's going to be Blackpool go there on good form, but Lincoln come energised. It's going to be interesting, that one, isn't it? So we'll go to the bottom half of the table now, and this is where you can start to see my team. We've seen 2 clubs as we go up to 15th now. You can see MK Dons drop down into the bottom half, Crew just behind them, and then you've got that bottom 4 forming: Rochdale, Wigan, Wimbledon, Bristol Rovers, Swindon, Northampton. I think we called it the Europa League of Relegation battle in League One the other week, and Bristol Rovers got a great win today, Matt. How confident are you that Bristol Rovers will stay up in League One this season? Because it seems to be those, one gets a result one week, then the next week the other team gets a result. They're all kind of hobbling in, aren't they?
They are, and I think there's a massive game this Saturday, isn't there? I think it's Northampton against Bristol Rovers, which is absolutely huge and is the very definition of six-pointer again. In terms of how confident am I that the gas will stay up, just a little bit more than I was before 3 o'clock, because they're just as likely to go and chuck in an absolute horror show against Northampton next week, or they roll up and play really well and beat them. And I think if they beat them, they then get momentum at the right time, like those teams trying to get in the top six. But it's still pot luck, isn't it? Rochdale and Wigan look a bit doomed now. Unfortunately, Wigan have played 39. So if Rochdale win their game in hand and Wimbledon win their game in hand, suddenly they look a bit cut adrift. Bristol Rovers have played the most, so they're by no means out of it. Swindon, bit in and out, aren't they? They pick up a decent result, then they take 2 steps back. Northampton's home form seems to be keeping them just above water at the moment, and it's a great opportunity for them next weekend. But I'm not going to call it this week because I'll change my mind again invariably next week. So there's no point me trying to guess. Rochdale is the only one that I say I think are gone because they don't score enough and they concede too many. But it's still up in the air, and one team will surprise us, like happens at the top end of the table every season. So I'm not going to sit here and chuck my hat into the ring in terms of any of them. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the fact that it's nothing to do with Gillingham for the first time in 3 years.
I think a Fleetwood fan was moaning before about we've got nothing to play for. Someone put, at least not in the relegation battle that we thought were in 6 weeks ago. We used to die be on this show next year. Tom, you're a man of
Tom might not.
So I know. Anyone want to come and replace him? So Tom, again, you're a man of your word. Which two do you see staying up? Bristol Rovers got a huge win today. It's about backing it up. They still have some tough fixtures coming up as well. I think they still got to go to Portsmouth as well. That's an interesting fixture. Which two do you think can stay up?
So my bottom 4 prediction to make it easier for me is Rochdale, Wigan, Northampton, and Bristol Rovers. They're my 4 that are going down, and I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to predict one thing and change it again. So Northampton and Wigan, because their running is absolutely horrendous, and they haven't got the quality, in my opinion, to win. Rochdale, because they're already bottom and they're pretty much, I hate to say it, but useless in terms of conceding goals or not scoring. So, and as Matt said, they've been 3-0 up or been 3 goals in games, and they haven't won about 7 of them this season. That's criminal. So, there's your bottom 4 for me. I think Bristol Rovers, I know they won today, but I don't know. I'm not going to change my mind. I think they're too fragile and don't score enough goals. And I think Doncaster are absolutely useless at the moment. They haven't won in 7. So
yeah. Last 3 as well. Tom, will stay with you. We're going to go on to the last bit of the show now, which is, of course, the form guide of the form table. Blackpool are top. I know it's very small, and you know Blackpool up there as well. Tom, how good is that for you right now, being top of that? I know it means nothing, but you've given yourself a platform to get into the playoffs, and you've got 7 or 8 big games left that you can maybe potentially drop a couple of points.
The exciting thing is we've got players to come back. We've still got 7 players out, although we haven't got Virtue and Hamilton because they're out for the season. Today we played our 4th choice centre-back who did a cracking job, by the way, and I apologise to Jordan Thornley because I said to Matt, I'm scared now, but he did a cracking job. We've got Gretterson, Epiteta and Husband on the bench today. You can make a defence out of our Jordan Gabriel, from Nottingham Forest. So arguably we've got the best defence we had today on the bench, and that just makes me a bit excited because we've got players in the midfield and Medine to come back. So if they all come back, around about the same time, it gives us that platform, as you say. But hopefully we haven't hit form too early, and we can just continue to take each game as it comes.
Absolutely. And the other side that are, around about that form table, the top 6 are, of course, your beloved Gillingham, Matt. Also MK Dons, who are, playing football the right way. Obviously, they scored that goal recently where they made about 70 passes, didn't they? So, I think they average 400 passes a game, more than that now. We still have to play them. They won 4 in a row. They lost today, unfortunately. How good of a job has Russell Martin been? Because I think in 2021, he's about 8 or 9. Last 23, 24 games, they're in the top 6 as well. How good of a job has he done? And do you think this is a rebuilding process? Maybe next year they could get into those top 6 places.
Yeah, I think this season, today's type of result was what's held them back. They go and win 4 on the bounce, and then suddenly they're favourites to win a football match and they slip up. But Russell Martin's got them playing a brand of football that's probably not entirely familiar to League One teams. There's more that try to do it now. I don't think there's many that do it properly. Crew like to do it, but get caught out from time to time. I know if you look into League Two, the likes of Forest Green try to do it, but get caught out a lot. Russell Martin's team do it very well on the whole. Whether they do the other side of the game quite so well is probably open to debate. Because today, when they've got to dig in a little bit and stay in games, they've not been able to do it, and they've been rolled over by a Crew side that's been a bit in and out. But yeah, I think if Russell Martin can have another good transfer window, another proper pre-season, and dare I say it, if he can get fans into the Stadium MK and cheering them on, that might have another positive effect. But we don't know, do we, in the sense that how are these teams going to react to having people watching them live again? Some might thrive on it. Some players might have enjoyed playing without fans, so they might then sort of clam up and become a bit more safe when they play the game. So it certainly makes for an intriguing season next season. But yeah, I think Russell Martin will certainly continue to improve MK Dons. Whether it's enough to be the top 6 next season, I'm not sure. But they'll certainly keep pushing on, and I don't see them being in any type of danger in terms of a relegation fight.
Absolutely. And finally, before we go, we're going to go forward for some fixtures that we've got in front of us. You think of the bigger game that you talk about, Bristol, Rovers, Northampton. Tom, do you think it's winner stays up in that? And like I say, the game today at the top said was must not lose. Do you think that's a must not lose game?
It's a must win game. I think if Bristol Rovers draw, it's gonna hurt their chances, because Northampton are above them and they just have to keep their head above water, don't they? So yeah, whoever wins, in my opinion, is staying up. But sorry, Northampton, I don't think will stay up in because of the running. But a loss to Northampton will really damage Bristol Rovers' survival chances. So yeah, maybe it's a must not lose for Bristol Rovers because Northampton's running, but I think they're both going to go down anyway.
And Matt, we'll come to you for this one. Lincoln against Blackpool. Lincoln are 6th, Blackpool are 5th. Blackpool have taken over. They're looking for the 4th on PPG now, Blackpool, actually. What's your thoughts on that game? Sinsel Bank, they're struggling, but they've just come off a little bit of a break. I know a couple of the players have, been out with this virus and pandemic going on at the moment. How big of a game is that at Sinsel Bank on Saturday?
Oh, it's massive, and I'm going to have to wear a Blackpool shirt now, aren't I? Ironically, after they've beaten us today, so because I think Lincoln's the team that are going to be chased down there by anyone. I don't think it'll be Blackpool. I think they've given themselves a buffer, and I think they're in there now. I can't see Blackpool coming back out. So for me, Lincoln are the one that everybody has to target because their form's not very good at all at the moment. So for me, I'll be cheering on Blackpool. But if we don't beat Shrewsbury, it means nothing at all. But I think looking at the form of the two sides, the way that Blackpool played today, I can't see Blackpool getting beat. Whether they win it, I'm not sure. But like you said, they've got that buffer now. They don't need to win that away game. There's not a pressure to go there and think we've got to get 3 points to stay in the playoffs. They know they've got enough up their sleeve in terms of games in hand. So a point wouldn't be a disaster for them. I don't think it'd be a disaster for Lincoln either, considering the form that they've been in recently. It wouldn't be a disaster for my team either. But it'd be nice for me if Lincoln got turned over by Blackpool if we beat Shrewsbury.
Absolutely, and I'm going to talk about Sunderland shortly now. Sunderland again, on form again. The return to the stadium. I like Nigel Atkins. Seem to be a bit of a boost. 4 points from 6. I think they play Tuesday or Wednesday this week. Nigel Atkins is a big fan of his philosophy and good mindset. And I believe Charlton could possibly get something at Sunderland. You never quite know. And Charlton are a dark horse for 6th right now. They're starting to score goals. If Nigel Atkins can keep them tight, they looked very good the other day against Doncaster. Going on to the bottom half of the table against top, Swindon against Peterborough. Huge game, Tom. Peterborough probably need to win. Swindon also need to win. For which team is it more important to win? Because Swindon need the points to stay up. Peterborough need the points to go up.
It's a good question, but I think the answer is both of them. But there's absolutely no way that Swindon are going to win that.
Wow.
Absolutely no way. Peterborough, I'll call it now on a recorded podcast to quote Graham earlier, Peterborough will win that comfortably.
Yeah, I think it's a free swing for Swindon as well, because if you look at their next game Tuesday night, they've got Rochdale away. They're going to be targeting that one. Anything's a bonus against Peterborough. Peterborough have overcome their little wobble, I think, as well. They won on Friday. Good point against Sunderland today, despite missing a couple of chances. Swindon are not going to get anything out of that. I can't see it at all. I think the Peterborough bandwagon rolls on now. It's a free swing. They can go there and have a go. A bit like Brendan said about Northampton, and they didn't do it against Hull today. I think Swindon can go and have a go against Posh, and if they get anything, it's a huge bonus, but it's not going to define them and whether they stay up or not. Rochdale, absolutely massive on the following Tuesday. So for me, Peterborough win as well, comfortably.
Absolutely, and I think we've run a bit over, but again, it's been a weekend of fixture, hasn't it, lads? And you look forward to it. And if you had to pick one game quickly on the spot that is possibly deciding the league and going down or going up, which is the biggest game this week? And I'm going to personally go for the obvious: Northampton against Bristol Rovers, Joey against John Brady. What would you go for, Tom?
I was going to pick that one, but I will go for I'll go Sunderland Charlton, because I hate to say it, if Gillingham got something out today, and there is a lot of football to be played, but I think if anyone's getting sixth place now, it's Charlton, and I'd be interested to see how Atkins handles Sunderland's. Are they away? Sorry.
Yeah, Sunderland
look okay at home, and they're very decent, but they're much better away. So they've conceded a couple of goals. They even struggled. They drew against Lincoln a few weeks ago. So if Charlton go to them and attack them, it'd be interesting to see how Sunderland react to that. So that's my fixture of the weekend.
And what's your score prediction? Put you on the spot.
1-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-1 as well. Matt, if you have to pick a different game, you can't pick Northampton, Bristol Rovers, or Sunderland against Charlton. What's your game? After you play Shrewsbury, that could be a big game for you. Maybe.
Yeah, I'll go with that one then, just because we're running out of time as well. So I'll go with the Gills game. It's absolutely massive now. It's probably must win. I think we've got to win all three of our remaining home games now to give ourselves even the slimmest of chance of gate crash in the top six. Shrewsbury have been in and out. Of course, they went and won 3-0 today, so they're going to be buoyed by that turning up in Kent on Saturday. But yeah, for me, it's a game we have to win if we want to have any inkling of trying to still get in the top six and gate crash them playoff places. I will back us to win it 2-1.
Hopefully, and good luck. Tom, thank you very much for coming on, mate. And Matt, you've been a pleasure as always. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We have been the third tier. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later. We've got a brand new channel launching next week called The Third Tier. Go and give it a sub. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. Remember, you can listen back to this if you fancy. Until next time, guys, see you later.